Very good afternoon, friends. ఈరోజు మనము will be discussing about Aristotle. There are so many concepts in Aristotle's theories. We have discussed about his classification of governments, his theory of ideal state, and other things. Today we are going to discuss Aristotle's concept of citizenship, Aristotle's views on women, Aristotle's views on justice, and Aristotle's theory of revolution. These are some of the issues that we are going to discuss. Firstly, Aristotle have two types of views. One is the conservative views. The other one is broad views. He has conservative views because he has supported the Greek traditions, Greek culture, Greek city-states. That is called as the Hellenic view. Hellenic view. Hellenic. Hellenic view. Hellenic view means views on Greek city-states, views on Greek traditions, views on Greek culture, and supporting of slavery, and supporting the very concept of citizenship that is there in Greek city-states. This is called Hellenic view or conservative view. The second type of view is Aristotle has a broad view. In the last class itself, we were discussing about Aristotle's views on governments. He has classified the governments into 6 types. The 6 types of governments he has classified. So in all the 6 types of governments, he has classified the governments on the basis of how many rulers that are there and the nature of the government. Is it a good government or a perverted government? He classified 3 types of governments as good governments, 3 types of governments as perverted form of governments. He has classified the governments on 2 principles. The first one is how many rulers are governing the government. If one ruler is there, one person is ruling, that is called as monarchy. That is also called as kingdom, a king. And if few people are governing, that's called as aristocracy. If many people are ruling, that is called as polity, according to Aristotle. So this is how Aristotle has classified the governments into 3 good governments and 3 perverted form of governments. Among the 3 good governments, he has classified monarchy, aristocracy, and polity. Monarchy, aristocracy, and polity as the good governments. He has perverted forms of governments. He has given 3 types of perverted forms of government. Tyranny,
polity, and democracy.
Yeah.
Tyranny,
polity, oligarchy, and democracy. Polity, oligarchy, and democracy. So these are the 3 types. So this is how he has classified the governments into 6 types. In this classification of governments, we can see a broad view of Aristotle. He has almost visited 159 countries, 159 countries, 158 countries in his lifetime. And he has observed all the governments in all the countries. And then he classified them into 6 types. This is a very broad view of Aristotle on classification of governments. Likewise, he has also given us a theory of revolutions. So according to Aristotle, a revolution comes if people want to change one government into other government, if people want to change monarchy into tyranny, tyranny into aristocracy, aristocracy into oligarchy, oligarchy into polity, or polity into democracy, or democracy into monarchy. So if people want to change the government from one form of government to other form of government, that is called as revolution according to Aristotle. So he has given 4 important aspects in matters of revolution. The first one is, if people want to change the government from one form of government to other form of government, that is called as a revolution. This is one thing. The second thing is, if people want to change the rulers, they want the same government, the same type of government, but only rulers are to be changed. For example, if the people want monarchy, and if they are already in monarchical form of government, but the present monarch is not good, they want a new monarch. So that means they want a change in rulers, not in the government. So change in the rulers is second type of revolution according to Aristotle. The first type of revolution is change in the form of government, from one form of government to other form of government. The second one is change
Ruler.
in the rulers.
But the same government.
But the same government will continue. That's called as revolution according to Aristotle. And third one is, if the people want change in the powers of one government agency than other agencies. There are 3 agencies in the government: legislature, executive, and judiciary. Legislature makes the laws, executive implement the laws, and judiciary gives us what is justice to us. So if the constitution says legislature should have more powers and judiciary and executive may have less powers, people may demand more powers to judiciary and less powers to the other two. Or people may demand more powers to the executive, less powers to the other two. If the people demand more powers to one organization and less powers to the other 2 organizations among the 3 agencies of the government, that's also called as revolution. This is also called as revolution according to Aristotle. So Aristotle says, if people want a different form of government, from one form of government to another form of government, that is first type of revolution. Secondly, if the people want the same type of government, but only rulers are to be changed, that's called second type of revolution. Thirdly, if the people want more powers to one agency of the government than other agencies of the government, that is also called as revolution according to Aristotle. Fourthly, if the people want to change the constitution, if the people want to change the constitution and rewrite the constitution, that is called a revolution. So these are the 4 important ways through which a government can be changed, rulers can be changed, the powers of the government agencies may be changed, or the constitution itself may be changed. So these are the 4 ways. One of these 4 ways, any one of these 4 ways is called as revolution. So it can be termed as revolution if people want more powers to the executive than legislature, if the people want the same form of government, but they want change in the rulers, if the people want a different constitution than the present one, or if the people want one form of government to other form of government. So any of these one of these in all the 4, any one of these 4 changes is called as a revolution according to Aristotle. And Aristotle has given 2 important causes for a revolution. Why revolutions occur? Why people demand revolutions? According to Aristotle, revolutions occur due to two reasons. There are two reasons, two causes. One is general causes. The second one is specific causes. General causes and specific causes. General causes means revolution occur in all the six types of governments. That is called general cause. That is the general reason that people want a change in the government or in the rulers or in the form of government or in the powers of the agency or the constitution. So there is a general reason. There is a general cause. That is called a general causes. The second one is specific cause. In the specific cause, Aristotle listed out why people want change in the government, why people want revolution in each and every government. So that is called a specific cause. That means why people, what is the reason for a revolution in a monarchy? What is the reason for a revolution in tyranny? What is the reason for a revolution in aristocracy? What is the reason for a revolution in oligarchy? What is the reason for a revolution in polity? What is the reason for a revolution in democracy? So these are the specific reasons. There are specific reasons in each and every form of government by people for revolutions. These are called as specific causes. So according to Aristotle, there are the general causes and specific causes for the revolutions. So if we go to the general causes, according to Aristotle, in every society, there are inequalities in income, inequalities among the people in terms of incomes, in terms of properties. Some people are rich and some people are poor. So these inequalities are there in every society. But if these inequalities are more glaring, if there are more rich people and less poor people, or if there are more poor people and less rich people, that means the inequalities of income is more glaring, then poor people will definitely revolt against the state. Poor people will revolt against the government and they want to bring a change in the government. That means the reason for economic inequalities, the revolution is economic inequalities. If many people are suffering from poverty, unemployment, illiteracy, ill health, then those people will definitely revolt against the government. And they want their problems to be solved. They want a dignified living. They want a living with self-respect. So then there is every chance of people revolting against the government. So that means income inequalities, economic inequalities, poverty, illiteracy, malnutrition, and illness, ill health, unemployment. These are the general causes for revolutions in any society. Aristotle has given this as a reason some 2,500 years back. Even now we are seeing these reasons for many revolutions throughout the world. There are revolutions in America. There are revolutions in Africa. There are revolutions in Europe. For example, in 1688, the England Revolution has come. In 1776, American Revolution has come. In 1789, the French Revolution has come. Likewise, in 1917, Russian Revolution has come. In 1948, Chinese Revolution come. These are all the modern day revolutions. But what is the cause of these revolutions? Economic inequalities, growing poverty, growing unemployment. These are the reasons for the common people revolting against the government. Common people demand their economic problems to be solved by the government. If the government failed to address the problems of the people, solve the problems, economic problems of the people, then common people will definitely want a change in the government. So that's called as revolution. Aristotle, some 2000 years back, 2500 years back, has written this as a cause. Still, we can see it as a relevant cause. And this will be a cause forever. Whenever a revolution comes, even in future also, the same reason may be continued. So that means when there is growing inequalities among the people, when glaring income inequalities leading to poverty, poor people will revolt against the state. So that is one cause for the revolution, one general cause. The second general cause is when people want social inequalities, when they experience social inequalities, when they are not getting proper respect, their self-respect is compromised, when they do not have a dignified living, when all the upper caste or the wealthier sections of the society are not treating the poor people as human beings. Human beings also have self-respect. So for their self-respect, people revolt against the state. This is not the economic reason. This is a social reason because people want respect. Every human being wants respect. So that's why Aristotle says human being attaches more respect to himself than to any of the other things which are needed in his life. First, you want respect. When poor people are not given proper respect by the upper classes in the society, the lower classes will definitely revolt against the state. So this is another important reason. The first one is a social reason, economic reason. The second one is a social reason. So these are the general reasons, general causes for the revolutions according to Aristotle. There are also certain specific causes for revolutions. According to Aristotle, these specific causes are the causes for people's demand for change in the government, in the form of government. Why people want a change in monarchy? Why people want a change in tyranny? Why people want a change in aristocracy? Why people want a change in oligarchy? Why people want a change in polity? Why people want a change in democracy? So these are the specific reasons. In every government, the specific form of reason for the people to demand a new government. So this is called as specific causes. Now let us see all the 6 forms of government and 6 specific causes. Why monarchy? In monarchy, government is not liked by people. Why people revolt against the government in monarchy? The reason is, if the king is imposing more taxes on the government, on the people, and people cannot bear the tax burden of the king, then people may revolt against the state. Likewise, the question of inheritance, when the king dies, who will be the new king? According to divine origin theory, the son of the king only becomes the king again, but people do not accept it. When people do not accept the successors of the king as their king, they want a new king or new form of government. So in all the matters of succession and in all the matters of taxation, people may revolt against the king in monarchy. So that's how revolution comes in a monarchy. Hello?
Yes, sir.
What is revolution, Amma?
So for a specific or general cause, to get a change in their life, so people will revolt against monarchy, aristocracy, polity, tyranny, oligarchy, and democracy.
Right. So a specific change or a sudden change.
Yes, sir.
Either in the government or in the system of government or powers of the government or the constitution, that's called as a revolution.
Revolution.
So in the general causes, he has given 2 causes. One is an economic cause, the other one is social cause.
Social cause.
In the economic cause, he says,
in terms
Aristotle
of
says,
income, illiteracy, unemployment, or poverty, ill health.
Yeah. Then people may revolt against the government.
Against the government.
What is the social cause?
Affecting their self-respect. So then people
when
will
people are
revolt
not
against the
given
government.
proper self-respect, people may revolt against the state.
Yes,
These
sir.
are the general causes of the revolution. Now he is explaining about the specific causes.
Specific causes.
In the specific causes, there are specific causes only in the monarchy. There are specific causes only in the tyranny.
Yes, sir.
Only in aristocracy, only in oligarchy.
Oligarchy, only in polity and democracy.
Democracy. So in monarchy, when the king's successors are not good and the successors of the king are not acceptable to the people, then the people may revolt against the state.
Or in case of increment of taxes on people, then also people will revolt.
Yeah, people are burdened with more taxes by the government, by the king. The people want a change in the king or kingship. So the ruler of the king or the government itself.
The government itself.
Yeah, this is called as a specific cause for
a
revolution in monarchy. Secondly, in a tyranny, the king uses his force against the people. He hangs the people, he fires the people, he keeps the people in jails, he makes third degree on the people, he threatens physically, he creates physical injury on people. So in all such cases, people cannot bear the inconvenience and revolt against the government. So when people are threatened by physical force, when people are kept in jails, when people are hanged, when people are awarded with death punishments, when people are lathi charged, people cannot bear the inconvenience and they may revolt against the state. So in the tyranny, when police force is used or more force, physical force is used against the liberties of the people, rights of the people, then people may revolt against the state. So tyranny means a dictatorship. Generally, a dictator uses his force and he suppresses the opinions of the people. He doesn't want any challenge or questioning from the people. And if the people challenge the government and if the people question the government, the king uses his physical force. The king uses his forces, military, police force against the people. When the king becomes brutal against the people and he uses all his coercive methods to suppress dissent among the people and suppress the questioning abilities and challenging abilities of the people, people may revolt against the state in a tyranny. So in tyranny, revolutions occur because the king uses his brutal force against the people. Then the people cannot bear it and they become intolerant and revolt against the state, revolt against the king. So a tyranny can be changed. That's how. This is also called as revolution. So in a tyranny, the specific causes, the brutal force, the application of brutal force by the government. In an aristocracy, how revolution comes? In an aristocracy, when upper classes are ruling the country and they do not solve the problems of the lower classes, a revolution may come. In all the societies, there are three classes: upper classes, middle classes, and lower classes. So according to Aristotle, in an aristocratic form of government, in aristocracy, generally the power of the country is in the hands of the upper classes. When upper classes are ruling the country and they do not know the problems of the common people, commoners, and the commoners' interests are not solved, commoners' problems are not solved, then common people may revolt against the state. So this is the specific cause in aristocracy. Why aristocracy? People want a revolution.
When upper class ruling the country does not solve or neglects the problem of lower classes.
Yeah. When upper classes are ruling the country, with their power, when they do not solve the problems of the commoners, common classes or lower classes, the lower class people revolt against the government. So this is how revolution may come in aristocracy. Likewise, in oligarchy, how revolutions come. In oligarchy, the ruling classes may have differences among themselves. The ruling classes, the rulers may have differences among themselves, and they quarrel with each other and they neglect the people. When rulers are ruling the country and they have differences of opinion among themselves, they are quarreling among themselves. All the people who are governing, all the people, all the officials, all the ministers, all the employees are quarreling among themselves and disregarding the problems of the people, neglecting the problems of the people, people may revolt against the state. So that means when rulers become divided and rulers are quarreling among themselves for self-interest, then there is every chance of revolution, according to Aristotle. Likewise, in polity, why revolutions come? In a polity, revolutions may come because sometimes people may not obey the law. Disobedience to law may lead to revolutions. Some people may disobey the law. The majority of the people disobey the law, and generally a revolution may come. In democracy, according to Aristotle, a revolution may come because lack of leadership and indiscipline among the people are the reasons for revolutions, according to Aristotle. So these are the specific causes for revolution, according to Aristotle. In a monarchy, in a tyranny, in an aristocracy, in oligarchy, in polity, and in democracy. So sir, in all the 6 types of governments.
The reasons for revolution in democracy, sir?
Democracy.
Yes, sir.
In a democracy, if people are becoming indisciplined and people do not have proper leadership, and there is no suitable leader to lead the country, then people revolt against the state under one able leader, and that able leader will establish a monarchy again.
Okay.
So from democracy to monarchy. Okay. So people revolt against the government with one able person as the leader, and that able person will become the monarch. So this is how there are general causes and there are specific causes for revolutions, according to Aristotle. And he has also given us certain remedies. What are the remedies for prevention of revolutions? He says in the general causes, the government should make effort to reduce economic inequalities. When there are no economic inequalities, people do not revolt against the state. The government should take care of the welfare of the poor people. The government disregard the problems of the poor people, and it is not concerned about the poverty of the lower sections, then revolution will come. That's why he says the government should bridge the gap between rich people and poor people. It should tax more on the rich people and do welfare on the poor people. The taxes that are paid by the rich people are to be channelized for the welfare of the poor people. So this is how the government should bring a bridge between the rich people and poor people. This is how a revolution can be averted. A revolution can be prevented, according to Aristotle. And secondly, the people's self-respect, people's dignity cannot be compromised. The government should respect the self-respect of the poorer people, more so the lower sections of the people, and it should provide them a dignified living. And people give more importance to their respect and dignity than even for livelihood also. That's why the government must treat all the people equally, and it should provide them self-respect and dignity, a dignified living. Then only the government can survive without a revolution. And in the specific causes also again, in a monarchy, how a revolution can be prevented. A monarch should declare his successor. If the king dies, the successor must be acceptable to the king, acceptable to the people, larger sections of the people. Then only a revolution can be averted. And likewise, the king also should not bring more burden on the people with taxation. So if the taxes are very reasonable, people pay the tax. If the taxes are more, people evade the tax. There will be more tax evasion. Why people do not pay taxes? Because taxes are so high that poor people cannot afford to pay the tax. That's why poor people have to bear the taxes in a reasonable manner. So the taxation should be very reasonable and rational. Then only a revolution can be averted. Likewise, in a tyranny, how revolution can be averted? In a tyranny, the government should not resort to force, physical force. If the government resort to physical force, and if the government keeps all the people in jails and awarding death punishments, making physical injuries on people, make them handicapped, then this will definitely lead to revolution. That's why Aristotle suggested that the government should not be tyrannical or dictatorial. It should not use the force in a reasonable manner. So excessive use of force will only lead to revolt against the government by the people. That's why the government should use rationality, reasonableness in using the police force against the people. If the government do not use much force, excessive brutal force on the people, people cannot revolt. Besides these two things, Aristotle also suggested that a revolution can be averted with the increase in middle classes. According to Aristotle, in an aristocracy, a revolution can be averted by increasing the middle classes. If there are only two classes in a government, the upper classes and lower classes, and lower classes are more and upper classes are less, people will revolt. But in between middle classes, in between upper class and lower classes, if there is a middle class, if the quantum of middle class is more in a society, middle classes do not resort to revolutions. That's why middle classes have the fear of dignity, the fear of family. That's why middle classes do not come forward to undertake the burden of revolution. That's why Aristotle has suggested that to avoid a revolution, the quantum of middle classes should be increased. When the quantum of middle class is increased, people cannot revolt against the government. Generally, the upper class are less, the lower class are less, middle class is more. Middle classes naturally cannot revolt against the government. Middle class are against the revolution. So that's why Aristotle says, in an aristocracy, if the government wants to continue without a revolution, the quantum of middle classes should be increased. All the lower classes should be given more opportunities to become a middle class. So if the number of middle class people are more, then revolution cannot come. Revolution cannot occur. And likewise, in an oligarchy, how revolution can be averted, prevented. In an oligarchy, Aristotle says, when the rulers resolve their differences among themselves, and if they do not have self-interest in the government, then they cannot expect any revolution from the government, from the people. So rulers should not have any self-interest. The selflessness of the people, the ruler should be averted. So this is how in an oligarchy, revolution can be averted. Likewise, in a polity also, revolution can be averted. In a polity, people should have the law-abiding nature, law-respecting nature, law-implementing nature. They should follow the law. Nobody should disobey the law. Law obedience. If you increase the culture of law obedience among the people in a polity, then revolution can be averted. Revolution can be prevented. So this is how he has given us the various remedies to avert the revolution. Likewise, even in democracy, how revolution can be averted. In a democracy, all people need to have discipline, self-respect, and all people need to have proper leadership. Then only a revolution can be averted. So friends, this is how he has given us the concept of revolution. When there is a question on the concept of revolution, you have to write first what are the 4 types of revolution that he has discussed. Then you have to write what are the general causes of revolution. After that, you have to write the specific causes of revolution in all the governments. And later, you have to provide the remedy for the general causes, a remedy for the special causes. So this is how he has discussed about revolutions in different forms of government. In fact, Aristotle has given this theory of revolutions some 2,500 years back, but it still holds good. In many places, we see the same kind of reasons for revolutions throughout the world. That means his observations are universally accepted. They have the universality. So in Aristotle's thinking, we see 2 types of views. One is Hellenic view. The other one is broad view, other universal view. In a Hellenic view, he supports the slavery. He supports the upper hand of men over women, and he supports the backwardness of women. This is how he supports the Greek traditions. But in his universal views, he has expressed about the classification of governments or the reasons for revolutions, a theory of revolution and other things. Okay, Nama, what are the causes of revolutions?
So general and specific causes, sir.
What are the remedies?
So remedies, general and special remedies should not, economic inequality should be reduced.
No.
And people's self-respect degree should not be neglected.
Right.
A monarch should be accessible to large sections of people and should not put tax burden on poor people or charge reasonable taxes and rational taxes.
Right.
Government should not resort physical forces. Reasonable police force should be used and increase in quantum of middle classes.
Yeah.
So they'll have dignity and fear of families. So do not resort to revolution. In oligarchy, rulers resolve the problems between them. So they should be selfless to serve the people. And for polity, people should respect law and follow law. In democracy, people should be disciplined, self-respect, and proper leadership should be maintained.
Right.
To avoid revolution.
Right. Thank you. But there are 2 types of views in Aristotle's theories. One
Hellenic
is
view and broad view.
Yeah, that's called universal view. Hellenic view and universal view. In a Hellenic view, he supports slavery, all the Greek traditions and culture. Sometimes Greek traditions are unscientific and blind, but he supports them. And likewise, in the universal views, he has established certain principles that are applicable throughout the world to any form of government in his classification of governments and theory of revolutions. Yes, so this is how Aristotle is a great philosopher. So in the next class, we'll be discussing about Thomas Aquinas. We'll be discussing about Thomas Aquinas.
Sir, actually, Plato's theory of justice gurinchi discuss chesta annaru kani cheyaledu sir.
In the next class, we'll discuss.
Okay, sir.
Okay, Nama?
Okay, sir. Sir, next ఇంకోటి ఏంటంటే యాక్చువల్లీ మాకు టెక్స్ట్ బుక్స్ ప్రొవైడ్ చేయలేదు సార్. మేము మాకున్న టెస్ట్ పేపర్ లోనే చూస్తున్నాము. యాక్చువల్లీ కొన్ని మీరు చెప్పింది చాలా ఈజీగా ఉంది, రాయడానికి కూడా అర్థం చేసుకోవడానికి కూడా ఈజీగా ఉంది సార్. ఈ బుక్ లో ప్రొవైడ్ చేసిన స్టఫ్ కొంచెం కన్ఫ్యూజింగ్ గా అండ్ కొంచెం కష్టంగా ఉంది సార్.
ఓకే ఓకే, విల్ మేక్ ఇట్ సింప్లిఫైడ్, నో ప్రాబ్లం.
అండ్ ఇంకోటి ఏంటంటే క్వశ్చన్స్ కూడా ఇప్పుడు చాలా నంబర్ ఆఫ్ క్వశ్చన్స్ ఉన్నాయి సార్. సో ఒక చాప్టర్ కి లాంగ్ ఆన్సర్ వచ్చి ఒక 8, 9 అలా ఉన్నాయి. షార్ట్ ఆన్సర్ కూడా అదే రేంజ్ లో ఉన్నాయి. బట్ మనకి టెక్స్ట్ బుక్ ప్రకారం ఎన్ని క్వశ్చన్స్ ఉన్నాయి ఎలా అనేది అర్థం కావట్లేదు సార్.
Now I'll give you some important questions. I'll give a question bank. Okay?
Okay, sir.
You require some 10 to 15 essay type questions,
Okay,
and 10
sir.
to 15 short answer questions.
Okay,
for
sir.
the whole book.
Okay,
so
sir.
if you concentrate on these important questions,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
essay type questions and short answers, I
Yes,
think that
sir.
would be enough. So that cover everything. Okay. Sometimes the questions are rearranged and given it more times.
Okay,
so in
sir.
the textbook also, the same question is given, the same answer is you have to write, but the
Okay,
question is given in different forms.
Okay,
That's why
sir.
the number of questions sometimes look to be more,
Okay,
but
sir.
the number is not really more. So in
Okay.
each unit, you may have
Okay.
1 or 2 important essay type questions,
Okay,
1 or
sir.
2 short answer questions, not
Okay,
more
sir.
than that. We'll
Okay, sir.
discuss that in the coming classes.
Okay,
Thank
sir.
you.
So, ఓకే సార్, ఈ లెసన్ కి సంబంధించి ఇప్పుడు టాపిక్ అయిపోయింది కదా సార్, అరిస్టాటిల్ కి సంబంధించి. దీంతో క్వశ్చన్స్ వచ్చి థియరీ ఆఫ్ రెవల్యూషన్స్ అండ్ గవర్నమెంట్ కి సంబంధించి ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేశారు
Classification
సార్.
governments,
ఎస్ సార్.
theory of ideal state, theory of
Yes,
state
sir.
కూడా చెప్పాం కదా.
ఎస్ సార్.
అది అట్లాగనే మనం Aristotle's views on slavery, that we'll discuss in next class.
ఓకే సార్. థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
Aristotle's views on citizenship.
ఓకే సార్.
Okay. Thank you very much.